Welcome to Streams of Income, hosted by best-selling author and entrepreneur Dr. David Powers, where we discuss streams of income, passive income, residual income, and even why there are dinosaurs and zombies in this intro. Fasten your seatbelts and get ready to dive in.
Welcome to the next episode of the Streams of Income podcast. Season 2. I don't know where we are in the numbers right now. We're getting up there. And I wanted to interview, and I'm already stumbled over my words. You know what? I'm not going to edit this crap out either. Just going to leave it in there. That way, if I mess up, she can't mess up any worse than me. And it makes the interviewees a little more comfortable. So talking to a good friend of mine and one of my oldest friends. I mean, I don't keep in touch with anybody from high school. My best friends, my oldest friends, are the ones that were there in the first years of my careers, plural. And so this is Parker McBryde. She is down in the sunny, yet flooded currently, location in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where she and I met and I grew up. And so we're going to talk everything from EMS to what EMS can do to you, the dark side of it. And why she and I both are on different career paths now, outside of medicine for the most part, or at least hands-on medicine now. And so let's talk to Parker. And Parker, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit and give us as much background and history and everything as you want.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, David. You and I do have a long relationship. We both started, I think, our careers around the same time with the rescue squad.
We're spanning decades now.
Yeah, I believe that's where we actually met. Originally from North Carolina, went to school there, went to college, moved down here. Was trying to find a career that I was interested in. Thought it was going to be in Parks and Recreation, and ended up being in the first responder world. I was leaning more towards being in law enforcement. I was even thinking about going down doing border patrol at one time, and then Myrtle Beach Rescue came to my job one day and did a little tour of the ambulance and talked about the career, and my love for that just grew from that point on. So eventually,
what did you go to college for in North Carolina?
Parks and Recreation Administration.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just assumed with the family history of the farm and everything, it might have been agriculture or something.
Yeah. No, kind of ventured.
Yeah, that's cool.
Being in sports, throughout high school, there was an interest there. I thought I was going to be a physical education teacher, was what I was thinking.
Yeah. Let's see, softball or basketball?
What's that?
Softball or basketball?
Both.
Really? Okay, yeah. Cool. And which college in North Carolina? Because we may turn off some listeners right away.
Wingate University.
Okay. So it's not UNC or one of those guys.
No. Okay, but I am a State fan, so we will go there.
All right, so I interrupted you. Let's see, Myrtle Beach Rescue had come there and talked to you about the ambulance and all that. That piqued an interest?
It did. Went and actually did a little bit of ride time with them, and just fell in love with it from that point on. And then that's eventually how I ended up at Surfside Rescue, and then on with Horry County EMS at the time. And then, of course, we merged with the fire department and became Horry County Fire Rescue.
Okay. And you and I met Surfside Rescue back when I was not even an EMT. I was just driving the ambulance and playing with the sirens.
Right.
And we had some fun. We'd get into, we never really got into trouble. I'm surprised. You knew everybody, so we stayed out of trouble, I guess.
Right. We did. I think there was a lot of practical jokes and a lot of dark humor, I think, too, to go along with that. But we did have a good time, and I think that's probably what kept me in the business as long as it did, was those relationships and that ability to have fun and still be grounded enough to do the work that we needed to do at that time.
Yeah. Yep. The funnest thing I remember is when we used to find the other ambulance and they were out eating or something, and we would turn all the lights and sirens on. So that way, when they hit the master switch, everything came on, and it was so embarrassing.
Yep. And the KY jelly on the door handles, and
people have no idea that these
professionals out of the back of their truck, or yeah.
It was fun stuff. So you were one of the people that ignited my interest because at the time, Surfside Rescue for me was just a volunteer thing.
Right.
And you guys ignited my interest in being a professional EMT and then paramedic eventually, because it looked like fun and it was fun for a really long time. I mean, I love going on the calls. I like learning, so I love the school and learning medical stuff and heart rhythms and everything. And so you and I don't know if it's about the same time or not because I had moved up here to Greenville for paramedic school and lived up here for a while. And but I just started getting burned out after a while. I mean, I went from wanting to ride on an ambulance 24 hours a day to man, I just wanted to see fun calls that I could like mostly trauma that I could really do something about and then turn them over.
Mhm.
And I lost all empathy for patients. I got to where I don't know. I couldn't stop myself from looking at patients from a point of view of this is your fault, man. You screwed this up. Why do I have to get out of bed to come rescue you in the middle of the night? And so that was me. I got burned out that way. And of course, some friends died, and that pushed me far enough where I just wanted to quit. So, what exactly was it for you that kind of burned you out of it?
I think initially when we started, like you said, it was all fun, and there was a lot of times we spent weekends or weeks together because of the tropical storms and the hurricanes, and I mean, and that was fun, because we got to do a lot of things, with the boat and just be out in it when you knew everybody else was off the roads, and so there was all of that, but um, and I think that adrenaline rush, and then you find something that you're really passionate about, and you want to do the best that you can about, and you want to learn, and you want to see, and you want to do, and next thing you know, you're pulling 96 hours straight, and you can't get enough of it, and you end up pushing all of your other friends away and your family away, and it starts to take up all of your time. And it's fine for a while, but I think in the long run, it takes more of a toll on you than you realize, that you're experiencing at the time. The accumulation of the calls that you go to, especially when I joined Horry County EMS at the time, and I was at busy stations all the time, which I wanted to be. I never wanted to be at a slower station, but when you're running 20 calls in a 24-hour period or more, and then you're leaving there and you're going to rescue because you can't get enough, and you want to run there, and even did an air ambulance for a while, and it was just jumping from one to the other, and then you start thinking, my community can't get along without me. So you start to get a little bit of that God complex going on too, that I can save everybody, but I just have to be at work. Your sleep gets interrupted, your eating habits do. It takes a big toll on your physical body as well as the mental aspect of it. And I don't think we did a very good job back then, David. We didn't know a lot about the mental health aspect of it.
Yeah.
We didn't really take care of ourselves in that regard, or spiritually, depending on what your faith is, and also hitting the gym. More or less for us, it was hitting the restaurants and then sitting around in the ambulance all day or the truck all day, and then going home and sleeping for 16 hours the next day and then
Yeah.
trying to do it all again. So there's that wear and tear overall. And, but, we just didn't know any better back then. But I think there's a lot more organizations and a lot more information out there now to kind of help steer everybody in a more positive environment to kind of continue
Yeah.
growing that career.
Man, you were absolutely right about the support back then. I mean, PTSD was only something only military guys got, and only if a war was going on. I mean, that's the way they looked at it, and no treatment whatsoever, no support programs whatsoever in our time. And nowadays, I guess the programs are there. A lot of people are still afraid of it, but something I always love too is I never liked the fire department. I got to say that because we were always competing and
We
to get
were,
the calls and stuff, and never liked them because we were the other guys.
right.
But I've always admired the how the fire departments emphasize physical fitness, and I mean they're much better on the mental fitness. And the EMS, even when EMS comes in under a fire department, they're still the redheaded stepkids for the most part. It seems like.
Right. We're the wild children,
Yeah,
we're daring things, we're, out of the box thinkers, we just have our own little world, so it's a
Yep.
completely different atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I've had trouble leaving EMS. I mean, I guess 20 years I worked EMS and like just on an ambulance. And even when I left EMS, I burned all my bridges. Like I let all my cards expire, all my certifications. So I couldn't go back to it. I mean, because I mean, number one, I kind of didn't want to, but I knew I would if I needed money or something. But there's no money in EMS either.
Yeah.
Um, but I still can't leave it. I mean, I was at a jujitsu or a civilian tactical conference last week. A lot of jujitsu, and we had a tactical emergency medicine component of the class. And man, my adrenaline just started. I was so excited. You know, we were practicing tourniquets on each other in the back of cars and stuff. It was like it all came back, all the fun. And it's like I'm so glad I burned those bridges because I would go back to this in a heartbeat,
Right.
just on a whim. But I know I wouldn't make any money. It would burn me out again. So, what about you? Have you had trouble leaving EMS, like the hands-on stuff? And feel free to go ahead and talk about what you're doing that revolves around EMS.
Right. You know, no, I did not adjust to quote unquote civilian life after coming off the ambulance. My mind and my head is still there. My body still thinks that I can lift those stretchers and patience, and I know I can't do that. You know, I have too much
Those
wrong with
lazy
my
folks
body now.
have hydraulic stretchers and stuff
Oh my
now.
gosh, right? When we had to do the old two-man lift thing, oh my goodness, no,
They
no,
came
no.
to my house to get one of my kids one day, and even my teenage kid, they've got him on a stretcher and a leg injury, and they just pushed it to the ambulance, and all of a sudden it's like a hydraulic lift and everything. They're so
No, and
lazy.
we thought of that. Why in the world didn't we patent it back then? You know, we would be set for life right now.
Yep.
But yeah, and I don't know what it is. I think it's that family that we had together. You know, even if you didn't get along with someone that you worked with, if something happened in their lives or, you know, within the organization, you still all pulled together. So that's what made it a family. You could argue and you could have bad days, but you always knew those people were going to be there for you. And I miss that part of it. I miss the people, and I miss some of the patience and the excitement of going to work every day, and nothing is ever the same, and you're not really in an office, even though you have a lot of paperwork to do. Um, but I don't know. I just couldn't get out of that world, and I'm still really not out of it. You know, if I see an ambulance, I still get excited about it, wonder where they're going, and thinking, oh no, it's probably a toothache or something that happens at 2 or 3 in the morning. But and I don't know what it is. I think it just gets into your blood and into your system, and you just can't shake it. I mean, there are some people that can just, like you said, lose your certifications and boom, that's it. I'm out of that world and I'm on to other things. And I just couldn't adjust, and I never really have adjusted to it. I feel like it's someone coming out of the military and just not adjusting to that life either. And I think
Yeah.
there's similarities there for sure. Um, and then especially when you're injured at the same time and now you're losing your identity. I think that was the biggest thing for me. Hey, I'm a paramedic, and this is, when people ask you what you do for a living and you're like, well, I take pride in that I can tell you that I'm a medic. And then all of a sudden I felt like I was nobody. I had no identity, no idea where I was going in my life, or what the future even looked like. Who was I going to be? And I'm still not 100% sure about that. Every day is just a new adventure. I'm trying to figure that part of it out, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. Um, but definitely miss it. And like
Yeah.
you, I had to let my certifications go too because I would have gone back. I'd go back today if there was a possibility that I could, if my back and shoulder and knees would all hold out at the same time. But then
Oh
too,
yeah.
I think that first shift back would probably remind me why I got out of
Yeah. Now, for a split second, you did go back as like weren't you like an operations manager or something for an
I did
ambulance
do that
service?
for a little bit. Yeah, I did, and I enjoyed that, enjoyed the people that I worked with, and there again, it was something, because we've talked about it before, David. I was diagnosed with PTSD and depression as well, and have struggled with that for the last 16 years. And I thought maybe being back in that capacity would be what I needed and what I wanted to be back into that career with actually being on an ambulance.
Yeah.
Um, but there again, even with that, I started to backslide a little bit. It started to take its toll on me, and I think it was, part of it. I still wanted to be on the ambulance, but I knew that I couldn't, and I knew that I
Yeah.
really didn't want to, and it was just back and forth. And it's just a head game,
Yeah.
and trying to say this isn't your career anymore. And so that was tough, having to say I can't even do this anymore.
Yeah. Now you're with PTSD and depression, your greatest therapy aid though is right beside you. I can hear his collar jingling.
Yeah,
And the I mean, and there are so many scientific studies out there too about the advantage of pets for lowering stress hormones and everything else. And so and plus this guy makes more appearances in your Facebook than you do.
he does. He does. He even has his own Instagram page. I mean, he's pretty rock star status. But
Yeah.
some days, if it wasn't for him, David, I probably wouldn't even get out of bed. But I know I have to get up and feed him. I know he has to go outside and have his walk and things like that. So I'm grateful that I have him by my side, and that he
Yeah.
aggravates me enough to stir me to have to get up and do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you went back to school for a while, didn't you? In somewhere around Atlanta?
I did. I went to seminary and got my Master of Divinity degree with ethics and theology. Uh,
Okay.
really wasn't sure what I was going to do with that, but I felt like it was, to me, it was sort of being back in EMS without being back in EMS. So
Yeah.
I could still be around people and still try to be there for them, but in a much different capacity.
See,
And
that's crazy. Is that's what I did. I went back to school and got my doctorate in theology from seminary for in counseling, and it was as much self help therapy as it was thinking I could help people in a different way.
right, right.
Yeah,
Is that
because
where
I
you
still speak at
started
EMS
finding?
conferences and stuff, and that's what I speak on is like mental health and everything. And I mean, it's helped me process things.
Right. Is that where you kind of figured out too that things had to change for you? Because that's where I
Yeah,
found mine. I thought all this time it was more burnout than anything else. Because, like you said, we'd work 96 hours. If somebody said overtime, yes, sir, I'm on that. Because I get to stay here. I want to do that. But there's something about when I went to seminary, and there's something about that where they sort of break you down a little bit to build you back up.
yeah,
And when that started happening, just the flashbacks started. I knew something was wrong. Things were changing. Um, having thoughts that I shouldn't have, and the whole gamut of things. Something was wrong, and I was lucky enough that I had a chaplain who dealt with a lot of counseling trauma, um, and so he sort of picked up on it, and we started having conversation. And then eventually, suggested see a therapist, and so it bounced from there to psychiatrist, psychologist, multiple therapists, group, individual, and medication. I've done it all, uh, and I don't know. I guess I wasn't really in my element either. Not one
yeah,
to ask for help, which none of us do. We don't like to do that. We think we can just take care of ourselves because we take care of other people.
yeah. We help people, so we don't need help.
Exactly, exactly. You called us. I'm not gonna call myself, right? Or I'm not gonna call you. And even
I
with
definitely don't want my friends showing up to treat me for something.
no, right? Because then we're showing our weakness, and it's not. It turns out it's not weakness. It's a strength. But I'm going on my second round here of therapy. I started having some spiraling issues last July, August, and really kind of went out of control by the holidays and the first of the year, and ended up back in therapy and working with a life coach. And so all of those things are helping, and it seems like I'm learning more this time because I think I'm more open to what's going on now than I was the first time when I was in Atlanta going through the treatment.
Yeah,
Because then I just wanted to get out. I'll tell you anything you want to hear so that I don't have to come back anymore. And
yeah,
that worked for a while. And then when I moved back down here, I was fine. And then all it takes, is just that one little trigger, and then all of a sudden everything starts crashing around you.
Yeah.
It shows up in your job, it shows up in your home life, it shows up. Even going to the store was a big event. You know.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah,
So I tell people now when they ask that I went from fixing bodies to messing with people's heads for a living,
yeah,
and so you're kind of doing the same thing, messing with people's heads in a good way.
right.
So you're kind of doing the same thing with what you're doing now. So tell us a little bit about that, the podcast, the blog, everything you're doing now, and what that's all about.
So I did a podcast with a local nonprofit group, Day One, Week One, and that went pretty well. That's the first time that I'd really started talking about where I'd been, what I'd been going through, the treatment process, how all that worked out, um, and then little things started happening from there. Um, I do have my life coach certification, and that's kind of what I'm moving back into. I'm not there yet because I am still in treatment. I'm still trying to get myself together a little bit, but eventually that's the path that I'm going to venture into. So,
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
what's
sure.
that called? That's your
Breaking
the
radio
pod,
silence.
Breaking Radio Silence. Okay. And
Yeah.
I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes too, so people can check that out. And especially if they're not in EMS, people they know, drive them to it. And that way they can get in there. People might look at you and say, well, she's in therapy. Why would I want to hire her as a life coach? And things like that. I always look at in terms of you don't want to hire somebody that's perfect because that person has not been through what you're needing help with. You want to hire somebody that's been through it, that's had trouble, that got help, and see the value in getting somebody to help them that has experience.
Right.
And
And that's kind of
that's why they should hire you because you know what you're doing.
Well, we'll see about that. The heart is there, for sure the heart is there, but you can go there and read the blogs. I've kind of journeyed through it, especially, I think the first one starts in November, and I kind of talk about where those sessions have been. Some are good, some are not so good, and I try to be as open and honest as I can about what I'm feeling and what I'm going through at the moment. So, um, and anybody can read that. Like you said, it doesn't have to be strictly EMS or any kind of first responder. And I think that's what's helping me this time. You talk about being with someone who's been there, and that's true. When I was in Atlanta, some of the therapists that I dealt with had no idea what first responders even do. So I would get frustrated because they couldn't understand where I was coming from. They didn't understand the dark humor. If I happened to slip up and say something, that I would too. If you and I were having a conversation, they
Yeah.
just get that. And get down, brother. So, I think I'm in a great place right now where the life coaches that I'm working with completely understand trauma, and they also work with other first responders and veterans as well. So I feel like I'm in a good group there. And then they also, referred me to a therapist who really deals a lot with trauma, and we're doing EMDR work and stuff right
Yeah.
now, and
That's
that's
pretty cool.
been yeah, it has been. It's been just eye-opening. Sometimes it really gets you emotional, um, learning that all of the trauma that you've seen stems maybe from other aspects of your life. So I feel like it's just a journey into bringing your life into a wholeness instead of
Yeah.
everything is chaotic and I got to fix this and that and the other thing, and it's not. It's more grouped in, and that's been the biggest change from the treatment in Atlanta to the treatment here.
Yeah. Now, are you thinking about getting certified is it EMDR or did I say it right?
I'm not really sure about what that looks like. I may just
I
leave
know
it.
Tony Robbins talks about that stuff a lot.
Yeah, and that was well, I've done everything. So we're looking at medication, we're looking at DBT group, different things, CBT, all that stuff I did. So I had heard things about EMDR in the past. I didn't really know a lot about it, so I sort of walked in it with no expectations, sort of.
Yeah.
Let's see where this goes. And the first few times, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for it. At least it's something that works for me. It may not work for everyone, but I can say from my perspective that it has definitely
Yeah.
changed things.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a personal soapbox about PTSD stuff because I'm in the VA system because of military injuries, and they test my blood often because they're just to keep an eye out for overdoses and addictions and things like that.
Yeah.
And so my soapbox though is there is so much research out there for cannabis, CBD, all that kind of stuff for PTSD, stress. I mean, good grief, arthritis, cancer. But if the VA has not approved any of that and will not, no plans to, and if they find any of that in my blood system, they'll cut off all my benefits. And yet there are so many military guys out there that, I mean, good grief, if they could just light up a joint when they're in a safe place at night, something like that, or
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know what your opinion is on that, but man,
Yeah.
legalizing that stuff for medical use, I am all for.
Right. Yep. I feel like that it would be up to each individual person. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think I really know a lot about it just yet. It would be just one of those things I'd have to research a little more and see um, how well others have done with it. But like you, I do know other people that are on it, and it has been a godsend for them.
Yeah,
You know,
just for relaxation purposes, if nothing else.
you're right.
'Cause I've got some friends that are they're way more fun to be around when they're just sitting at home chilling. They're eating their brownies or whatever.
Or their gummies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're not gonna do like the Joe Rogan podcast though and light up while we're here on the Zoom. So
Right.
we're gonna avoid that because legal implications for both of us.
Truth.
So all right, so breaking radio silence is something you're working on right now and building. But me and you we're very curious people, and so there's been a lot of streams of income for both of us through the years. So
Right.
tell me about some of the things you've tried, and maybe what worked, what didn't. Maybe something that if it wasn't a good fit, or if now it's something you just do for a hobby. Well, what have you done for money over the years?
Uh, so more or less just part-time jobs. Full-time, still looking, but for me, holding down those jobs has been a little difficult from time to time because you never know what's going to be a trigger for that day. I've been lucky that I have worked for people and organizations that I've been honest about the PTSD and the depression right off the bat because I don't want to go in there with any fakeness that what you see is what you get. And sometimes I can't say that, I won't have a little meltdown.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I still hold a part-time job, but I did move towards having my own business. I was doing art and it was
Yeah.
saltwater native. And I really enjoyed that, and it was a stress reliever for a while. But then it became more of a job than it was passion or helping me get through those moments. So
Yeah. Okay. So it
even
like lost all the passion and the fun out of it.
yeah, and it became more about perfection, and it became more
Yeah.
about getting this product out all the time, and the advertising, and the amount of time that it took. And it just wasn't fun anymore. And then
Yeah.
I found I just completely lost interest in it. And so after a while, just like with the certifications, with the other stuff, I just let it go. And
Yeah.
I don't regret doing that. I mean, I enjoyed that time and working with my hands because I also did woodworking as well. And and that helped me at that time. So I'm not going to say that was a loss. It was just another building block to get me to the next stage. So
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Yeah, because you were doing that. I don't even know what the method you called it, but when you would pour the
mhm.
paint, what's the method called there?
It's called dirty pour.
Okay.
Dirty Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So 'cause you
Yeah,
never
that stuff was pretty cool.
yeah, and, and you just let the paint do whatever it's gonna do. It's not like I'm sitting there kind of, figuring out where I want this to go. So
Yeah.
that was
So it was
kinda
kind of chaotic, but it had a little fluid rhythm to it, and the color mixing, everything was pretty cool.
yeah,
So you're not selling the art or anything now. If you do it at all now, it's just for something fun on a whim kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, don't even do
Okay.
it anymore. Just
Yeah.
sort of lost interest in art altogether. I think I did it as a kid, and actually, I drew a lot. So some of the things, were pretty decent, and there are times when I wish I would have kept that up a little bit. But sometimes you just outgrow things, and they're
Yeah.
good for a time, and then you need to kind of cut them loose, and you find new hobbies and new things to do.
Yeah. Now you went back to the Parks and Rec industry for a while too, right? Or is
Yeah.
that what you're still in?
So now I'm more in tourism.
Okay.
Yep. So working for Skywheel of Myrtle Beach right now.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
Yep, it's working there a
Yeah.
couple
So
days a
if
week.
you're watching or listening to this, go see Parker sometime at the Sky Wheel in Myrtle Beach. I mean, as soon as you get anywhere near Myrtle Beach, you see the huge Ferris wheel. It's like the one in London. It's huge, and you notice it right away.
Yeah,
And fully enclosed, air conditioned, and all that good stuff. And you
that's
can
right.
see for miles and miles out in the ocean.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
yeah, it is that. So we have a good time there.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess before I forget, Parker and I are working on a Yellowstone related project together. I won't tell you much about it so that nobody steals our idea before we publish it, but it's going to have us both rewatching all the episodes again, such a chore. And so we're going to release this thing right before the next premiere, though, of what is it, part 2, season 5 kind of thing.
Yeah, something like
And
that.
so stay tuned for that because you're going to see a little bit of Dave and Parker come out in this Yellowstone related book idea. So, have I missed anything like streams of income or anything that did you ever work on the family farm other than like chores and everything growing up? I mean, did you ever want to go back to that for any reason?
I did. I wanted to. I actually wanted to live across the road from my parents and have horses and miniature cows. That was the dream. Build a little house there and kind of stay home.
Mhm.
But you get out, you go to college, you start kind of living your own life, and gradually things kind of go in opposite directions of what
Yeah.
you
But it's
think.
hard to pull you away from the beach now.
It is, once you get that sand in your shoes, you can't get that out.
Yeah.
So, even
That was
moving
how me and you used to cope after runs on the ambulance. We would go surfing, and neither one of us very well. But I don't
we
know.
got
There's just
stung
something
by a
about
lot of
being in the water.
jellyfish.
We would try to stand up and ride the waves and hope nobody saw us when we fell down, but it was fun.
It was fun, it was fun. Not so much when the
Yep.
tropical storms came in and sort of tried to send us back in, to
Oh
the
yeah,
street.
and I remember treating some injuries. I mean, we had one kid broke his back
Yeah,
bodyboarding, and
yep, yep,
those hurricane waves will tear you up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So you mentioned horses. I forgot that was one thing I wanted to ask you about. You've mentioned horse therapy a lot in
Yes, I
some of your
did, yep.
Facebook posts and stuff. And so, is that something you're kind of volunteering with?
Actually, I attend sessions there. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's called Barnabas Horse Foundation. They're down in
Oh,
Murrayville.
I've been there over
Yeah,
in Socastee.
so they're down, in Georgetown County.
Oh, okay. I've been to the old place, I guess.
So, yep, so they do, a veterans, group and a first responder group, and, they also have individual life coaches. So, I started there, they had a open house, in December, and,
Yeah.
I got a friend to go with me, and, I just love the way it felt. It felt comfortable, and I don't know. It was just a nice change of pace. And so I started in January, and I've been going right regular since then.
Yeah.
So that's made a big difference.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And that's a neat, I mean, neither one of us doing anything like that for money, but that's a neat stream of income if you have horses.
Yeah,
Or a farm, I guess, just doing the hands in the dirt therapy, the horse therapy, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it does remind me, of home, the smells, the sounds.
Oh, I bet.
Because my granddaddy had horses growing up, and my dad's uncle had a pinto named Rock. He had blue eyes, and we'd go ride him bareback all the time, and that was fun.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of home, and kind of finding myself there all at the same time. So, and it's nice
Yeah.
being around other first responders who are, you know, feeling sort of the same way that I am. And it's not that we necessarily have to talk about anything. It's just the camaraderie that's built, and that hey, there's other people out there that are struggling just like we are. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You just gotta hope nobody gets hurt because then every one of you guys is fighting to get to freedom first.
either
Unless
that, or
it's
it's
not a
like,
good injury,
oh
and then you're
no, we
like,
don't do anything.
that's not bad. Somebody else can handle that.
Right. I'll call 911 for you, and then you're on your
Yeah.
own.
Yeah. All right. So let's I'm gonna go ahead and start closing out. I got one main question that I usually don't preview this question, so it'll stump you. Possibly.
All right.
So the one last question I want to ask that I ask everybody is if you knew you could make a living from it, so money's not an issue, if you could pick one dream stream of income, that you could do for the rest of your life and you think you'd be happy with it, not get burned out, anything like that, what would that stream of income be?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. Oh, David, it would have to be um, working with others who have similar issues as we do.
Yeah,
I feel wholeheartedly that this PTSD, depression, anything mental health is much needed, and just more talking and listening to people and being outside. I don't really see myself ever being like an office job. In fact, growing up, I never wanted an office job. I didn't want to be in a building. I'd rather be outside doing
yeah,
something. So whatever dream career there is incorporating that sort of stuff, even just being out on the beach, if you were to meet people out there and just walk and talk and sort of meeting them where they are, um, and maybe having a little puppy power involved in it might help too. Um,
yeah,
but I don't know. I think it just more or less goes back to that ambulance thing, right? It's just being around people that need to be loved. I think that's the biggest thing.
yeah.
So,
You say all that, and I can picture you doing just that. Like you have client meetings, and they meet you at a certain beach access, and your 1 hour appointment or whatever is spent either sitting at the beach access, listening to the ocean, or just walking a little bit. And
right.
that would be pretty amazing. I mean, way better than the whole "come sit on my couch and tell me how you feel," kind of thing, which people like us would not do well with.
Well, I'm kind of in that right now, and I'm surprised at how well I am doing with
Yeah,
it. But it takes time for me. That those are one of the things that I'm extremely quiet. I don't allow a whole lot of people into my inner space, and so that trust is a huge thing for me. And I kind of keep my walls up for that. So yeah, there'll be times that I won't say much, but once I get comfortable and realize that yeah you can trust these people, then
yeah.
then, then I'll open up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Parker, I want to thank you for being with me and giving everybody a glimpse into uh, what's a really good career, but there's a dark side to it. And
Right.
then where do we go from there? And I just think it's really neat how you're taking everything that you've been through, everything that's happened to you, and channeling that into a way to help people that have been through the same thing. I mean, that's what we need is experienced people that know what they're talking about, because that's how best we can help others.
True.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So tune in for the next episode, and I have no idea as I sit here talking to to the listeners right now. No idea what the next episode is, but you'll find out. If you ever get down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, go visit the Sky Wheel, say hello to Parker, and check out Breaking Radio Silence, and that's where you'll find her on the professional side of things. And just talk to her there, leave some comments on the blog, so let her know what you think. And thank everybody for tuning in.